of the one-man revolution, his very American, rugged individualism. He's quintessential American, radical. Couldn't have come from any place else. And he challenged other people to be truthful to their own insights. He held up a standard. It was a very high standard of personal integrity and devotion, consistency, and he thereby energized the peace movement.
Well, we were both very much admirers of Ammon Hennacy, who certainly did do things on his own. We publish books that we think will be useful to people in their struggle against imperialism and against war. And we hope that they'll be thoughtful in their use of ideas. We do publish a book on direct action and sabotage, which is an old book from the IWW days, basically a classic.
Joe Hill is a very important person for today. He's not only American labor's most famous martyr, he's also American labor's greatest, most popular songwriter all through the years. His songs are still sung on picket lines and demonstrations today.
I am Mary Lathrop, and this is the only portrait I've so far done of Dorothy. Ammon wanted to invite me to come out and help him start Joe Hill House. Catholic worker life, in spite of all the problems, is a lot more exciting than working in a rectory. I went out to Salt Lake City.
And we have on our stationery this Joe Hill being shot that Mary painted on the wall, 12 by 15. And underneath it, we say, from Peter Moran, the co-founder of the Catholic Worker with Dorothy Day, we have to put up with each other the way God puts up with us. God's going to have to take care of Hennacy. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm an anarchist. I'm not expecting the government to. And you see the city of Salt Lake and the Salvation Army in Salt Lake do not take care of the transits that jump off freights. Well, I'm doing a thing the rest won't do. That's all right. And by the time I do that long enough and picket long enough and talk against the blood atonement and capital punishment.
Well, we published a book of Waltrain de Clare's poems, and it's been a very popular book, written in red. She was a famous anarchist woman in Philadelphia. She had an extremely interesting life and was very inspired by the Haymarket martyrs.
Ah, broken hearts were the price of these. The lips of their anguish are cold and still. For them are the clouds and the glooms all past. No longer the woe of the world can thrill the chords of those tender hearts or fill the silent dead house, the people's will. Dearly you'll weep that ye did not save. Do you not hear now the muffled drum, the trampling feet and the ceaseless hum of the million marchers trembling dumb in their tread to a yawning giant grave? See, the ground hisses with red streaming blood clots of long frozen ire, waked by the flying wild voices as it passes, groaning and crying. The surge of the masses rolls and flashes with thunderous roar, seams and lashes the livid shore.
You know, I grew up in rural Americana. I also grew up in the church, in the conservative church, and although sex was, worse than, premarital sex was worse than war, a lot of people were having premarital sex. It kind of is this self-righteousness that leads to hypocrisy. So
perhaps it would be more honest to say that in the United States the national religion has become shopping, and that the television offers the preaching for this religion, and the shopping malls offer the place of worship, and that's where people tend to invest their sense of worth, their sense of identity, their sense of what they crave. And the churches, the ones that look like churches, often again are a smokescreen for the real religion, which has everything to do with consumption. I think if people think for a while about what they want to entrust to their children, it wouldn't be this capacity to just engage in endless consumption. That's not what people want for their children.
But shopping is also the great escape for people that don't really want to face the pain and deal with the suffering. It's just another one of those escapes, just like alcohol and drugs are. Anything that will distract our attention from the pain and the suffering that exists. And I think what happens with any escape, the problem with it, is that what you're escaping from never gets addressed. And in fact, it will continue to get worse and worse.
But of course, the 4.5% of the population of the world that lives in the United States is consuming at least a third, if not closer to half, the world's resources. That can only happen through theft at gunpoint. It's what we've been doing for a long time. It's just now getting more desperate.
It seems that we have got it quite in reverse. When we think of the man Jesus allowing himself, in a sense, to be led by the love for children, that's the leadership that I want to follow. I think to be able to ask what's happening concretely to children because of those policies that our country is developing. How can we commit ourselves to the cares and concerns of children and to preserving the children? You can find the direction if you keep focusing on those questions. Where are the children? Where are the poor children? What's happening to them?
So we're at the Anarchist Cafe at Martin DePore's, but it's too loud, we gotta go someplace else. You know, punk rock served a really important moment for a lot of us, and it was also speaking, I think, to the frustration, the alienation for a lot of teenage youth. Not just have a sense of alienation and individually deal with that, but to come together with other people and try to understand the roots around consumer capitalism and the culture of greed that a lot of us were growing up with. And so punk rock very much connected the frustration to a broader politics that started looking at issues around race and class and gender and sexuality and putting it into a much larger context that allowed me and my friends to be able to think about the experience we were having in relationship to the experience other people were having, and seeing the ways that oppression and exploitation operate in the world, and how we as teenagers were able to organize and try to make a difference and come together. And anarchism was a politics that expressed that kind of social change possibilities.
I try to get the people to understand the nuclear energy is not the way. Radiation is I've been saying it for many years. It's gonna thin our life for us, not only a human, but all the living things. So we already began to see that. Then the DOE, there's the Nuclear Energy Department, as they call themselves. They said they weren't going to test at the Nevada test site anymore. Everybody believed that. But I kept telling the people that you cannot believe our government, because they're the one that's pushing all of this.
I belong to no organization, and I own only what I wear and just the few things I carry in my little pockets. I just walk until given shelter, fast until given food. And of course, a pilgrim walks on faith. I have no money. I don't accept any money. I walk on that endless energy that comes with inner peace. It never runs out. You know, there's a spark of good in everybody. No matter how deeply buried, it's right there. It's waiting to govern every life gloriously. That spark of good is the real you. I will say that the real turning point in my life came when I came out of my empty life of money and things and began to live to give instead of to get. Oh, it was just the most wonderful change in my life. My life just blossomed out. I knew my life work was going to be work for peace. Not only the outer peace, but the inner peace, which I talk about the most, because that's where peace begins.
I've designed a great seal for the University of California, Los Alamos. The Great Seal of the University of California has an open book, and it says, "Let there be light." Well, here in Los Alamos, it's got to be, "Let there be nuclear light." That can come from an exploding bomb, a nuclear power plant, or from the sun. In Bombs We Trust is typically Los Alamos. 1943 is approximately the start of the nuclear age, the start of Los Alamos. And 2013, just 10 years from now, it's all over for everybody. I see an American with an American weapon of mass destruction destroying Washington, D.C. And we've got 20 Trident submarine commanders out there.
The Hopi, delegation of Hopis came to New York to deliver their message of imminent destruction of the world to the United Nations. And we met them out in front of the house at 223 Christie Street, and then I drove them and Ammon up to the United Nations, where they met with some officials, low-level officials, I imagine, and who were polite, but who didn't take it all too seriously, I guess.
Here's some of Ammon Hennacy's couple pieces of the bone that was left over after he was cremated. His cremains, you might say. He was cremated in 1970 after suffering a heart attack carrying a picket sign. So he died 6 days later in January 1970. That year, the Ammon Hennacy House of Hospitality was started by Los Angeles Catholic workers. So it's pretty powerful holding these in your hand.
Ammon's value, which was enormous, was that he was stubborn, he was persistent, he would not be moved from what he thought was right. He was going to make you think about the nuclear bomb because he was going to go on a fast every Hiroshima Day, I think, for however many years it had been since the bomb had gone off. And you had to therefore sort of think about those issues, because here is Ammon walking around the federal building saying he hadn't paid taxes and that he was fasting because of the nuclear bomb. And you could say, well, Ammon is a nut. Well, he wasn't a nut, first of all, but that's not so important as the fact that after you said Ammon is a nut, you said, why is he doing this? So Ammon also said, if I can do it, you can do it. He also said, if I can do it, you should be doing it. But he opened the door of possibilities.
We have on our window, we have this from Debs. Mary Lathrop printed there. While there's lower class, I am in it. While there's a soul in prison, I am not free.
I don't look to government as a way of achieving peace. Peace is going to have to come about from individuals finding peace within themselves. And once individuals find peace within themselves, what happens is that there's a promotion of more and more peaceful interactions around them. And if we can get more and more people to be in that state, then we will have more and more peace.